How about now?
Yes, there we go. Beautiful. All right, so now you should all be able to see it. Yes, I'm getting a lot of yeses coming in. All right,
Okay,
Randy, take it away.
great. Great. Thanks a lot, Dan. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for taking your time for this. So we're going to talk about why the essays are more important than ever before. Although I'm going to concentrate on the top tier and Ivy Leagues, this really applies across the board. So I thought the best way to start off is to depress you all. So the stats for the incoming freshmen for this year. Um, Harvard, why isn't this working now? Okay, all of a sudden I'm not able to use my, oh, there we go.
There.
Let's try this. Okay, so 34,000 students applied to Harvard. They took 2,000. Yale, 30,000 applied. This September 1900 started. Princeton, 26,000 applied. They took 1,900. MIT, 18,000 applied. They took 1,400. Columbia, 32,000 applied. They took 2,200. Penn, 35,000 applied. They took 3,500. University of Chicago, whose motto is where fun goes to die. 2 years ago, only 24,000 students applied, and that jumped in 2 years to 30,000. To also destroy the SAT myth, Harvard turns down 500 kids a year with perfect SAT scores. 1,100 students are turned down with 800 on their SAT math. So, what is the purpose of the essay? Simply put, the college, it's the only vehicle that the college has, the only instrument to see who your teen is as a person, what your teen is passionate about, how your teen will fit into the community, what makes your teen unique and an individual. So, as Dan said, we're going to talk about the top five, a few more thrown in, mistakes that students commonly make. The first mistake is writing about their academic accomplishments. All right, for the students out there, I want you to think back to the sixth grade, the core group of friends you have. As time has gone on, you've drifted apart. You're going to be voted now most likely to succeed, and that person's going to be voted most likely to commit a felony. The point is, like-minded people are together. So like-minded people are applying to the same types of schools. So on paper, everybody starts to look alike. On paper, everybody is a president, on a team, in the orchestra, yearbook, mathletes. On paper, everybody looks alike. So look, you're writing about this does not further your cause. First of all, everybody has the same basic resume. It's also, as Dan pointed out, the whole process has become ridiculous. And it's become even more so. In the past, it was enough to say you've done community service. Now you have kids starting their own foundations. In the past, it was enough to be the soccer team goalie. Now you are competing against the Olympic gold medalist goalie. In the past, it was enough to be on the mathlete team. Now you have to solve Fermat's last theorem. I don't know what that means, but my wife is a math teacher, told me to put it in. In the past, look at me, I'm special. I gave blood. Now look at me, I gave my kidney. So it's also a matter of deja vu. The admissions officer is sitting with your transcripts in front of them, your letters of recommendation, your notes from teachers, from your parole officer, whoever. Writing about your academic accomplishments is redundant. It's repetitive. And it doesn't tell the admissions officer anything that he doesn't already know from looking at your transcripts. The other really big mistake that students make is trying too hard to appear intellectual. The thesaurus is not your best friend. Using words like plethora or myriad are not impressing anyone. In a supplemental essay, if they ask you your favorite book, don't write down Shakespeare because you think that's what they want to hear when in fact you like the Twilight series. Of course, if you like 50 Shades of Grey, you have other issues and I can't help you. There are also a lot of sleeping pills on the market, so we don't want to bore these people to death. But through the course of tonight, we're going to talk about some of the elements that make a really good and strong essay. Now, here is a really great bad example that comes from the University of Virginia. This is a student that clearly did not get in, but thought if he sounded or she sounded bright, it would help. From an early age, we accept death as the inevitable, but do not comprehend its actual denotation. Death is the impending future that all people must eventually grasp. In my early 20s, my grandfather tragically perished. As a youth who did not identify with such a cataclysm, I was saturated, I love that, I was saturated with various emotions. Initially, I was grieved by the loss of a loved one and could not understand why this calamity had to befall upon my family. I always considered death to have a devastating effect, but was shocked by the emotional strain it places upon an individual. I don't know if this is a guy. I don't know if this is a girl. I don't know anything about this person as a human being, as a teenager. I don't know what this person's interested in, passionate about. I know that grandma has this thing hanging in her condo because she's so proud of her grandchild, but it tells me nothing about the teenager as an individual. Another big problem is trying too hard to be creative. Now, we're going to talk about the Common App later and how they changed the topics as of last year. And one of the ones they got rid of was a topic of your own. And the reason they got rid of it is because this is the type of stuff they would get. You have to remember that the Common App essay is not an academic essay, but it's also not a creative writing essay. It's a hybrid. So unfortunately, people think, well, if I'm creative, but that's not the point of the essay. So this is the kind of stuff that they would get. It was a cold and dreary night when I first arrived in London. I could hear the faint whispers of the bard himself beckoning me to the Globe Theatre. Or sweat dripped from my brow as the proctor meticulously handed out the nationally recognized assessment examination. My pulse raced and my heart pounded through my chest. This is my favorite one. It was all up to me, bases loaded with 2 men out in the bottom of the ninth. We were suffering a dearth of 3 runs. I have never in my life met an athlete that said, come on, fellas, we're suffering a dearth of 3 runs. I dug my cleats into the dusty granules of dirt, held my bat firmly, and watched for a pitch like an eagle watches for its prey. They're pretentious, they're silly, and once again, they tell me nothing about the person as a teen. When they had a topic of their own, I would see these things all the time. How my life is like the phases of the moon. Why these essays are actually meaningless. I can prove I am God. It took me about an hour to figure out how to do the circle thing, so I'm pretty impressed. All right, you also want to avoid the cliches, the overused statements. I'm hardworking, ambitious, and driven. Well, first of all, you're applying to college, so I hope you're hardworking, ambitious, and driven. Secondly, if you're an overachieving student and you're taking 12 AP classes and you're in 6 sports and you're doing 2,000 hours of community service, we get it. You're hardworking, ambitious, and driven. The same for this. I love to be challenged. You're applying to college. It's a given. Pointing these out will not help your cause. Now, these are the obvious ones, but here are a couple that are not so obvious. My peers often look to me for leadership. So here's the problem with writing about what a great leader you are. First of all, go back to those like-minded students. If you and everybody else are applying and everybody is a leader, who are the foot soldiers going to be? Who are the actual members going to be? Plus, when you first get to a college, you're not going to be the captain or the leader. You're going to be the grunt, and the captain or the leader or the president of the club is the senior saying to you, look, take that box and hand out the papers to the people in the room. The college would rather at this point that you knew about teamwork, collaboration, cooperation. Your transcript is still going to say that you were the president of 6 different clubs. It's still going to be acknowledged, but telling the college I'm seen as a leader is really meaningless. My grandfather's death made me want to be a doctor. I don't know why this is. I've seen this so many times. There must be cemeteries filled with dead grandparents that have inspired doctors. But it's not really about you. And these essays need to be about you. This is the one I call the Oprah one. I want to make a difference in the world. Like we're going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. It's a nice sentiment. It's sweet. And it goes along with the I love to be challenged and hardworking. And yes, it would be nice to make a difference. But it's not about you. And these become very generic. And that only took me a half an hour. Another thing that you want to avoid is writing in your major essay, your Common App essay, about the thing you want to major in. So let's say you want to be a chemist. Well, if on your transcripts you've taken AP chemistry, you've interned in some chemical plant that eventually is going to kill us all, And now in your Common App, you're writing about your love of chemistry. You become very one-dimensional. You're not a three-dimensional person. One of my favorite stories is a kid I worked with who was valedictorian, 2400 SAT, president of the Mathletes, first chair violin, and his Common App essay was about his love of football. And at first, his parents were freaking out. Like, how can he write about football? And it was about teamwork. It was about losing with dignity and winning with humility. And it showed the college that he's a well-rounded person. He goes to Harvard now. Because on paper, we get it. You're a smart guy. But who are you as a person? He's passionate about football. All right? So you don't want to be one-dimensional. Another reason that you don't want to write about your major interest is every college will have supplemental essays, which we're going to talk about later, and of course the college essay organizer and how that will help you. But they're going to ask you, why this major? Why do you want to be a chemist? Well, if you've just written a 650-word essay about your love of chemistry, you just shot yourself in the foot for the smaller essay where they're going to ask the same exact thing. So trying to understand the point of the essay is what makes you unique and not like every other student. What life experiences imply that you'll fit into the school culture and the school community. Now, if I'm the admissions person, part of my job when I read your essay is to look for this subtext. You're going to be living in my home for 4 years. I want you to be productive, happy, doing well, thriving. I don't want you to be curled under your bed in the fetal position, sucking your thumb, wanting to go home. So when I'm reading these essays, I'm looking for subjects that give me an idea that you'll be fine here. Now, any one of these would be great. Don't try to squeeze them all in. It'll never happen. Your head will explode. And there are, I'm sure, many, many other possibilities. So let's say that your essay is about adaptability, how well you adapt. Well, you're going to be adapting to a new life for 4 years. If I know that you have the tools to adapt well, you'll be okay. Are you persistent? Well, in high school, you have mom or dad able to call the math teacher, the guidance counselor. When you're in college, if you want something done, you have to be able to do it. If there's a big hole in your mattress, you're not calling your parents to then call the school. I want to know you have the wherewithal to be persistent and do what needs to be done. How do you handle disappointment? Again, things aren't going to always go well for you. You're going to have a disappointing class. You're going to have a fight with your roommate. I want to know that you have a mechanism in place, that you know how to handle things when you're disappointed. Are you self-confident? But do you have a realistic self-awareness? Don't write about, I want to cure cancer while I'm an undergraduate or a graduate. Understanding and acceptance of diversity, availability of a strong support person, very much like handling disappointment. If things don't go well, what's your mechanism for when you need somebody to talk to? How will you add to the community? What's your personality like? Independent. Any one of these things at least gives a little glimpse into you as a person. These essays aren't about you as an academic, an athlete, an intern, a researcher. It's just about you as a teenager. So without sounding like Oprah, the big thing is everybody seems to forget they're unique. You are all unique. I'm not going to sing Kumbaya. All right. If you know this movie, you'll understand the reference. You don't have to invent characters. If you stare at this picture on the screen, you're going to see faces. And the more you stare at it, the more faces you're going to see. The point is, your best essay topics are hidden in plain sight. You're thinking too hard. You're thinking, oh, well, what happened? What kind of dramatic? You don't need that. They're all right in front of you. Another big mistake is forgetting to read the school's website. Every school is going to ask you, why are you applying to us? Now, if a guy walks up to a girl on the street and says, would you like to go out? And she says, why me? And he says, I don't know, you're just standing here. Not a good reason. I don't make that analogy in reverse, because as we all know, if a girl walks up to a guy and says, you want to go out, he's going to say, yeah. So it doesn't quite work the same. The point is, all the information you need is on the website, but you need to know how to handle it. For instance, If you want, there are students applying to NYU or Columbia, and they make the big mistake of saying, I want to go to NYU because it's in New York City. Well, so is the College of Hair Follicle Restoration. It doesn't tell us why you want to come to us. If you look at the website and it says 80% of the faculty are Nobel Prize winners, the people reading the essays, they already know that about themselves. You're not telling them anything they don't already know. However, you have Dr. Quackenbush, and I want to study blah, 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 and Dr. Quackenbush is the leading authority on that, so of course I want to go to your school. Your school has 300 clubs. Again, we know that, so what? Yes, but you have the Rotary Phone Reenactment Society, and I'm a history buff. They tell you that they have internships in Northern Mongolia, big deal, but I've always loved yaks, and I want to be around yaks. And of course, don't cut and paste, don't plagiarize. Now, here's the extreme that you do not want to do. Penn's nursing motto, care to change the world, speaks to who I am. I want to be that nurse practitioner who impacts families, who betters society, and who makes a difference. I want to be that PNP who smiles, who makes children feel comfortable, and who heals. And Penn's School of Nursing will help me achieve that goal. Where else can you gain clinical exposure in the sophomore year with access to world-class hospitals, such as the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania? Where else do you have the opportunity to engage in real-world research like at Life and improve the quality of elder care? But practical experience is just one side of the double helix. I love that. I should introduce her to the guy with the dearth of education. The rigor of Penn's academic curriculum also calls my name. The emphasis on leadership appeals to me. Aside from the fact that there are 20 cliches in here and the person clearly cut and paste, I know nothing about this person. This is so generic. This could be for anybody applying. In fact, if I owned an advertising agency, I'd hire her because she writes one heck of a press release. This reads like an advertisement. Coincidentally, this is from last year. I'm working with somebody now, and for the same school, this was from her first draft. The multitude of educational opportunities provided by Penn makes the institution an extraordinary resource of knowledge. Penn's stellar academics combined with the spirit of its undergraduates makes the university my first choice. The research opportunities at Penn are also impressive. As one of the world's leading research universities, Penn has a wide range of faculty conducting advanced research in all fields. In addition, the school's location in one of the country's premier cities ensures that there will be a wealth of research opportunities within reach. I am also impressed by the social opportunities at Penn. I also admire Penn's focus on community service. Once again, I'll hire her to write a brochure, but I know nothing about the person. Now, here's the good news. A college website is no different than a brochure to buy a car. It's designed to get you to apply. So all the information is laid right out there. As an undergraduate, this is what we'll give you. As a biology major, this is what you can expect. These are our clubs. These are our traditions. These are the internships. It's all laid out there. So you need to be specific to the academics. So for instance, let's say you're undecided. You don't know what you want to major in, and you're applying to Brown University. Brown has open curriculum, which means they let you choose your course load, figure out what you want to take. So why am I applying to your school? Why am I applying to Brown? I don't know what I want to major in. You're allowing me to discover where my passions are by allowing me to apply to, column A, column B, column C, and figure it all out. Let's say you want to be a business major and you're applying to NYU. Well, their internships are right on Wall Street. Why am I applying to your school? You're going to be putting me in internships for the very companies I want to work for. The same goes for the clubs, organizations, and very important, traditions. Every website is going to talk about a school tradition. This last season, I had a student that found out just by looking at the website that on this particular campus, I want to say Dartmouth, but I don't think it's Dartmouth. I forgot what campus it is. It might be Bentley. There's a life-size skeleton that's radio controlled. And once a semester, it makes its rounds across campus and will come into a professor's classroom. It'll ask the professor a question. If the professor gets the question wrong, class is dismissed. And her point in the essay was, I want to go to a school where the professors want to have as much fun as us, where there's no separation between them and us, that they're part of the family and we can all work and play together. It's very important that you visit a campus for a couple of reasons. One, of course, for your essay, but also, you can't go just because somebody said this is a good college. You might not like the people there. You need to explore the college. Your parents don't buy a house without investigating the neighborhood. All right, so the official tour, the tour guide is going to be a student who's going to tell you about his or her experience. One student wrote that his tour guide started off as a biology major, but then changed to the humanities and became a history major. And in her essay, she wrote, I want to go to a college that I can change my mind, change my major, and that sort of thing will be supported by the college, that I can do so without losing credits, that you understand that at 18 years old, I might change my mind. It's also important to go off the official college tour and walk around the school, meet people. I always tell students, walk up to students and say hello. If you don't, your parents are going to go over and say, excuse me, that's my son. He's going to apply here. Would you talk to him? So unless you want to be humiliated, just say hello. Look, if the students aren't nice, probably not the place you want to be. But by talking to real students and by walking around, you're going to discover a lot about the school for your own knowledge, but for the essay. So this one kid wrote that when he walked into the student center, he saw a group of guys sitting around a table having a really intense conversation. And as he got closer, he realized they're having a debate of who could beat up who. In a fight to the death, would it be Superman or Batman? Now, personally, I just think those guys need girlfriends, but that's another conversation. The point he made, though, is I want to go to a school where something as silly and fun as Batman and Superman can be spoken about with intellectual curiosity and in a respectful way where you could literally debate this and do it seriously. Okay. You also want to check out the classes. If you walk into a college class and it's a big, giant, impersonal lecture hall with 500 kids, you might hate that. Or if you go outside and there's a professor under a tree playing the guitar, you might not like that either. You have to kind of scope out the way classes are given. Now, you could sit in on a class. Professors don't mind. You just ask their permission. So one student wrote that he sat in on a freshman class, and during the class, a student disagreed with the professor. And that started a little kind of debate back and forth. And by the end of it, the professor actually said, I see your point. I agree with you. And the student wrote, I want to go to a school where my voice as an 18-year-old is going to be heard by a PhD, that my voice is important. Okay, you're going to have a limited amount of words to tell the school how wonderful they are. Kissing up is not going to help you. Telling them it's a prestigious university with distinguished professors, unparalleled resources, and a spectacular campus are meaningless. I have seen these four exact expressions countless times, and some, incarnation of these, some facsimile of these, like even more. Don't kiss up to the college. Tell them your specific needs that match their specific resources. These are the topics that I usually say run for the hills, and I'll explain the usually part. So this poor admissions person is sitting in a little cubicle, and you're writing about the epiphany you had on a Mediterranean cruise. Not a good idea. Saving the rainforest in Costa Rica, which usually means my parents sent me on a really expensive vacation. I got a great tan, and one day I picked up a Coke can. Sports injuries. Now, sports injuries used to be okay to write about, but now everybody's tearing their ACL. The chess team is tearing their ACL. Death, disease, divorce, disorders, relationships. Sadly, all of these things have become rather cliche, overused. However, Here's the usually and now the however. If your perspective is unique, you can write about anything if your perspective is unique. So it's okay to fail. We're going to talk about the Common App question in a little while about failure, but all too often when kids write about failure, they write, I tore my ACL, I went to rehab, now I'm the starting pitcher. Or I took an AP class, I failed my first test, I studied hard, then I got an A. That's not failure. So I worked with a kid who said to me, in the 9th grade, I was the 4th chair violin. And I stopped him and I said, please don't tell me that you had a tutor and now you're the 1st chair violin. And he said, no, I'm still the 4th chair. I stink at the violin. I just love being part of the orchestra. And in his own words, not everybody in life gets to be the 1st chair. It was a brilliant essay. It was okay to fail. All right, it's okay to follow. Not, like I said before, not everybody gets to be a leader. It's okay to say, look, I'm not the president of the club. I'm not the captain of the team, but I know how to take the vision of the president and make it a reality. I know how to put in my opinion, my ideas, but I understand this is the president. This is what he needs to happen. I know how to make those things happen. The last one is my absolutely favorite one. So I worked with a kid who wanted to go into biochemistry, and the college asked about his major. You know, why biochemistry? Why your major? Why are you excited about this? And most kids will write things like, oh, it's the building blocks of life, and I love to investigate, and all that nonsense. Well, in his school in the 11th grade, the chemistry teacher puts everybody with their lab partner on day 1, and that's your lab partner until June. There's no two ways about it. So there was a girl in the school that he always liked but never had the guts to ask out. So he ran to his guidance counselor, begged to get transferred into that class, got in the class, and told the teacher, please make her my lab partner. He figured he could razzle-dazzle, refer to himself in the third person, and just win her over. So teacher puts her with him, and within about 10 days, he realized, oh my God, I hate this girl. She's annoying. But he fell in love with the subject. A unique approach, different than everything else, and it also speaks volumes about him as a person. Okay, so on paper, this girl is president of her robotics club. AP, everything. She interned in a company that made like prosthetic arms or bionic legs or something. She wants to be an engineer. That was her passion. So the college asked, tell us about your most important extracurricular activity. So naturally, as president of the robotics club, that's what she's going to write. This was her first draft. Get the card. Someone get the card. Do we have the box on the bus? Is the robot arm here? And where are those freshmen? Someone call those freshmen. It was the morning of the Science Olympiad competition, and 20 science nerdlings, as we were called, were all scrambling to get on the bus before we missed check-in. Our chief commander and club advisor, Mr. Schlip, was shouting orders. The robot arm was missing. My partner and I were trying to fix the string on our mousetrap vehicle that was refusing to cooperate. Sophomores were huddled in a corner trying to cram last-minute information into their heads that they can use as an arsenal to beat down the other teams. The secretary was trying to collect last-minute permission slips from everyone. Let's go, shouted Mr. Schlip. We rose with a roar and cheered, calling out our battle cries. We were ready to go to war with the other science students of New Jersey. Now, if I was teaching a high school English class, if I was a creative writing teacher, I love this. I would use this. I would say this is a great place to start. But there's nothing in here that I don't already know about her from her transcripts. So this is what I mean when I said before, your best essay questions are right in front of your face. So I said, tell me about the Science Olympiad, what's fun, and don't mention science. And without thinking, without overthinking, without missing a beat, she said the bus rides. And this is what came out of that. Earning a medal at the robotics competition, especially after the many hours of preparation that our team puts in, should be the most gratifying part of the whole experience. It's not. It's the bus rides. No one is allowed to study for tests or do homework. Cell phones are turned off. We all just tease each other, laugh at dumb jokes, and sing silly songs and limericks. We eat from a 2-gallon sized container of pretzels and probably talk way too loud. It's the one time during the school day that we are not students or science and tech nerds. We are just teens. I get to experience my teammates outside of academics, where we all feel safe enough to be goofy. The bus ride always ends too soon, and we return to our game face. First, however, despite a warning from our advisor, we open the emergency exit at the back of the bus and leap out together. Now, at first, her mother was nervous because she said, yeah, but that's illegal. But now this is a 3-dimensional real person. We know she loves robotics. We know that she did great on her SATs. We know that she scored 5s on her APs. But now she's real. She's 3-dimensional. We know she'll work hard, but now we know that she'll be social. She'll have fun. All right, quick English lesson. And yes, I know I spelled that wrong. Denotation and connotation. Denotation is the dictionary definition of a word. Connotation is the emotional response we get to a word. So in the dictionary, group and mob have very similar dictionary definitions, but their emotional responses are very different. Ma, there's a group on the front lawn. Ma, there's a mob on the front lawn. The point of this, don't be negative. I know that telling a teenager not to be negative is like saying don't breathe. So here's a girl who's a Muslim religion, and she was writing about growing up in a post 9/11 world as a Muslim. Now here are the sound bites from that essay. Face the same abuse, soiled Muslim image, erase the grime. When others realized I was human, I acknowledged it as well. Forced to go through the motions of being a Muslim, face the realities of the world. Religion with a tarnished image, ease the burden of future generations. So I showed her these, and I said, do you want this girl to be your roommate? And she sort of kind of smiled. I said, look, I don't want you to lose the message, but think of your word choice. Now, eventually, this is what came out of her final essay. A sense of self-respect and pride, love and kindness, family, Muslim community. Perceptions can be changed with honesty, patience, and education. Misguided information. Erase the stigma. Stigma is a softer word than grime. Diffuse myths and assumptions with a smile and understanding demeanor. Supportive friends from all backgrounds who believe in tolerance. I aspire to further promote the positive reality and acceptance. Now, when we were all finished, I said to her, did anything get lost in translation? Did you feel like you sold your soul to do this? And she said, absolutely not. It's exactly what she wanted to say, but look how much more of a positive take it is. All right, so this is a kid who is valedictorian of his school, great grades, great everything. Simple question, how has your community influenced you? My community is not very diverse. 96.9% of residents are Caucasian. The lack of different cultures and ethnic backgrounds has contributed to my love of travel. Yeah. My town sucks. It influenced me to leave. I love this one. My parents worked very long hours. As an only child, I found myself home alone quite often. I taught myself how to make noodle soup, adjust the air conditioning, and use the oven. Hello, Child Protective Services. All right, this was for Stanford University. What outrages you? This was the first draft. My school's girls volleyball team was set to play in a championship game which occurred during a school day. Our principal said students couldn't leave early to attend. The student body was furious. On the day before the game, I convinced 200 students to sit outside of the school's office during class time to protest against the principal's decision. Eventually, he came out of his office and agreed to allow students to attend the game. Let's go back to the 60s, and if you're not happy, burn down the admissions building. No excuses. If things didn't go well, if your grades suffered, most colleges are going to give you an essay that says if there's anything that's not reflected in your transcripts that you'd like us to know about you, please tell us. That's when you talk about living through Hurricane Sandy, or God forbid, a death in the family, or divorce, or something that made your grades suffer. And even then, it's got to be done with a positive slant. It can't be poor me. I'm working with somebody right now who has cancer. He's in remission, but it could come back. So telling them that your grades suffered because you were getting migraine headaches compared to this kid who's applying to college who is not far from, if it comes back, it could be stage 4. So whatever the reason is, it still has to be, look, this is what I went through, but I'm looking forward, I'm moving forward with my life. Most colleges, all colleges, are going to ask you, tell us about an extracurricular activity or your summer, what you did in the summers or work experience. The best way to remember this is, it's not about the activity, it's about you in the activity. It's not about playing soccer, it's you in the locker room with the soccer players. It's not about the game, it's about the relationship to other people. Being a team player, working together collaboratively and cooperatively, supporting each other in loss, celebrating with each other in victory. What does it mean to be, to support each other? It's not about the activity, it's about you in the activity. A very quick story. I'm not going to mention the name of the school or anything. So this happened a couple of years ago. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So one particular school, high school that I know about, has a scholarship for students once they are already accepted. So the packages come back. There's some faculty and administrators. They go through and they decide who's going to get the scholarship. This one particular year, only about 2 years ago, the head of the committee was also the coach of the swim team. And as he was rifling through them, he noticed that one kid referred to himself as the captain of the swim team. Couple problems. The kid wasn't the captain. The kid wasn't even on the swim team. They called the college, and the college rescinded the acceptance. Now, the point is, don't worry, that was a fluke. That is not going to happen to you. Nobody's looking that carefully. But the point of this is, don't pad your resume. Don't make things up. Don't think you have to add to your resume because you don't have enough. I once spoke to an admissions officer who said that you look at a transcript, 9th grade, no community service, 10th grade, no community service, 10th grade, a little bit, and then in the summer before senior year, they must have discovered God because they have 2,000 hours of community service. So don't pad your resume. Don't make anything up. All right, so here are the new common application essays. A background or story that's central to your identity. I'm working with somebody whose 2 brothers are both autistic. So central to this kid's identity is patience and understanding, and how patience and understanding permeate his whole life. This was a kid that's very much like Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory. When he was a little kid, hated change. Any kind of change would send him nuts. If you told him at 3 in the afternoon that we're having pizza for dinner, and then at dinner time it's Chinese food, he'd have a nervous breakdown. So you can imagine what this kid was like when in the next 5 years, the family moved 5 times across country. But he embraced change. He learned how to embrace, accept, and prosper with change. This was a kid that is from China. Back in China, very wealthy family. The father's factory went under. They lost everything. They were dirt poor. They lived with family in a little apartment. The father ended up borrowing some money. They came to the United States, and now they're wealthy. But core, central to her identity is all this material stuff, it's meaningless. As long as I have my family, I have everything. I don't care about the iPads and the iPods and the designer, everything. My family is what's more important than anything else. What you don't want to write about is central to my identity is central to my identity is having a competitive nature. You're hitting them over the head with, look at me, I love school, I love to compete. And again, if you're involved with several sports and organizations, they'll know that about you. Central to my identity is the love of learning. Again, you're hitting them over the head with it. Dan, you're there. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah. I just had a couple quick questions from people. We have a lot of questions coming in, but I knew that you were going to be covering most of the material, and I believe you did. But I have a few quick questions from people. One is whether or not this question some students have a background or story so central to their identity. Whether or not that's open-ended, meaning kind of equivalent to topic of your choice. What's your thought about that?
I think it's not as open-ended as you would think. I think what's the key words in this are central to your identity. So who are you? Are you somebody that's patient? Are you somebody who's understanding? Are you somebody that relishes change, that changes are right? So it's more about you. They want to know who you are. So if you can relay a story or background that gives them an idea of who you are and how that thing, that part of your identity, a sense of humor, caring about animals, whatever it is, sort of permeates your whole life.
Excellent. And
Okay.
here, you had mentioned before, when you're talking about essay topics, not to necessarily write about, what your main academic interest is, but a student writes, can you write about what you might want to major in as long as you don't do it, as long as you do it in an interesting way and it reveals something about you? As in,
Well,
not just I love chemistry, but here's a look at my life through the lens of chemistry or something more like that. I feel as though my interests, when dissected, tend to reveal a lot about me as a person, which is what we're aiming for with the essay, right?
Well, okay. So first of all, the way I always look at this is they're looking at 38,000 essays. There's no time for them to dig through it to figure out your metaphors and your analogies and what this really represents. Now, look, you're going to have a chance when the college says, what major are you interested? Why this college? That's when you're going to have a chance to say, I'm not sure. I love chemistry, but I have passions in different areas. I want to explore that. But just try to write a clever essay where your personality comes out through the subject matter. I'm not, these are not creative writing assignments. They're a hybrid. So they want it really kind of straightforward. I mean, I'm not saying it needs to be boring, but I'm not sure if trying to do something that would be like clever. I don't think clever is a good word in this instant, because if they've got to dig to get what you're trying to say, if they have to dig through it, you're going to lose them in the reading of it.
That's a good point. And I also think that, most colleges ask at some point or another, what your intellectual or academic interests are. Like, why do you plan to come here? What do you want to study? That kind of thing. So I always feel like that's really a better place to talk about your intellectual drive, your academic interests. It's more pragmatic in that sense, as opposed to kind of like a cliche metaphor. So Renee, I just want to make sure that we have time for our contest, which we always do at the end of our webcast, where
Right.
one student out there will have the opportunity to submit to you one essay that you will provide feedback on.
Yes.
And I also want to make sure that we get anyone's question out there at all. Any question you have for Randy, submit it now so I can ask him, because like I said, I want to make sure this is really interactive. He's covered a lot of ground. I think he's done it in a dynamite way. Largely, I really loved how you highlighted that there's a big difference between a great essay and a great application essay. Just because it's well written doesn't mean that it says anything about you that the colleges are going to learn from.
Right. As a matter of fact, some of the hardest kids to work with are really great writers, because they write well, but they're not getting the point across succinctly. And one thing I have to say about your service, I always encourage people, for the college essay organizer, especially to upgrade it to the roadmap. The thing is, like for that student that just asked about, the major and not sure, if you see in one shot, this essay about that question is asked 4 times, and this essay, about your interest is asked 3 times, you'll know right away by just looking at it, okay, I'm safe. All my colleges are going to ask about, my major interests, etc., and it's covered in one shot. And you'll see, I call it cross-pollination, where you could use a similar essay for other things as well. You want me I can go through the other 4 relatively quickly.
Absolutely. Go through them, and let's leave a few minutes at the end for
Right.
the contest.
So we've already talked about failure. So this was a girl who was an okay artist. Everybody told her how good she was. just to make her feel good. She took AP Art. Her teacher said, look, you're not that good. You're not going to do well here. If you're concerned about your GPA, you should probably drop it. Even her guidance counselor said to drop it. And her answer was, I don't care about my GPA. I just want to learn art. Now, that's huge for colleges. School from first grade to high school has conditioned us that everything is result driven. It's about the 4.0. It's about the GPA 4.0. It's about the 2400 on the SAT. It's achievement oriented. College isn't about that. It's process oriented. They want you to just learn and get into the process. So here's a girl saying, I don't care if my GPA dropped. I wanted to learn. This was a kid that did not make his varsity swim team, but he still had a passion for swimming. Instead of giving up swimming, he found an organization called Safety Swim that teaches little children how to swim. All right, so we talked about a few of these. A time when you challenged an idea or belief. This is a tough one, but I've seen some really good ones. The kid who was the 300-pound linebacker for the football team who was a vegetarian, challenging this idea that, this big football player's got to be eating steak all the time. This was a very funny one. This was a Chinese girl who's horrible in math, and it wasn't even her Caucasian friends. Her Chinese friends would look at her and say, what do you mean you're bad in math? You're one of us. And her challenging that silly stereotype that just because you're Asian, you're automatically innately great in math. All right. You don't want to write about God or abortion or those kind of hot button topics. The place or environment where you're perfectly content. They just want to know where you're the most comfortable in your own skin. The locker room. If you're comfortable with the soccer team, it's not on the soccer field. It's in the locker room. It's being a member of the team. This one is the environment. This is a kid that said, I am the most content in any environment where I can make somebody laugh. Where I go to a very academically driven school, everybody's stressed out. I want people to understand not to take themselves so seriously. I'm content when I can make people laugh. You don't want to write that you're most content coaching a program for handicapped children. You're like hitting them over. This reeked of my mom made me put this in the essay. It's not about this. This could be somewhere else. Or the lab. I'm most content in the lab doing experiments. Like, come on, I want you as a three-dimensional person. This is a great one. So this is the coming of age one. This has a little more leeway because culture, community, family. Basically, when did you first start thinking of yourself more as an adult? So I'll leave it with this one. Great idea. Kid said the beginning of his senior year, his parents brought him into his bedroom, and there was a laundry basket with a big red bow. And they said, from now on, you're responsible for your own laundry. You're going away in a year. You better learn how to do it now. You also have to buy your own laundry detergent. His essay wasn't about laundry. It was about being an adult means paying attention to the minutia in life that nobody really cares about. It's not sexy and cool and fun to pay bills or do laundry, but it has to be done. The only thing you want to stay away from is, I got my driver's license, because that's sort of cliche. All right, so that's pretty much all five. And Dan, I'll turn it over to you since we want to leave some time.
First of all, I want you to take a drink of water or tea right now because you are a machine, my friend. Wow, that was an amazing burst of energy. Got
Thank you.
Really fantastic feedback from everyone out there. You covered a lot of territory there and really did it in a cohesive way. I think the one thing that Randy and I would want to emphasize here is that, the beautiful thing about the college essays, and I understand it's easy for us to say it. We've been away from this process for a long time, and we're not the ones applying to college. But we've worked with enough students to know that this is your opportunity to really be in the driver's seat, to be in control, and we would encourage you to feel empowered writing your college essays. I know you got a million other things you want to do, and it's stressful, but your GPA, your transcript, that's largely behind you. You can't change that. Your tests that you take, the SAT, ACT, that's taken under stressful conditions, and you don't always have ultimate control over the outcome. With your college essays, you can really frame the way that the strangers are going to get to know you. And so take your time with it and just know that this is your best opportunity at this point to get accepted to your top choice colleges. keep also in mind that there are exceptions to every rule. What Randy said was spot on, really across the board. But if you feel like there's something that he said, like don't write about this or don't write about that, and you disagree with it, ultimately you have to go with what feels right for you.
Exactly.
And I would also, my personal final note here about the college essay is, I think it's always good to have someone review it. The reason why having an independent consultant or someone who doesn't know you read your essay versus having a teacher who loves you or your parent or your sibling read it is that they know you and they're going to be able to filter all those words through that context of knowing you. The person who reads your essays at the colleges that you're applying to is a total stranger to you. They have no context for who you are, so they can't pick up on something that might be sarcastic that the person would only get if they know you. So working with someone, whether it's a school counselor or a consultant who doesn't necessarily know you too personally, that's always good, or even just a trusted teacher around school who, again, doesn't necessarily know you, but you respect. I think that's important at some point.
Absolutely. Let me just say really quickly, if you can see on the screen, there's an old writer's joke. How many writers does it take to change a light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb? Just pick one person, a teacher, guidance counselor, parent, somebody you trust, a consultant, somebody. But the more people you show it to, the more confused you're going to get because you're going to get a million opinions.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to this contest. So we, one of our favorites, and if you've tuned in the past, you might have already prepared something fun for tonight. Everyone, since there are a lot of people out there, gets to submit one contest submission now. I want you to take a couple of minutes and think of the best first line of a college essay. The best first line. Randy, by the way, you want me to take this back from you, the control?
Oh, yeah, you can do whatever.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, no, I was okay.
Okay, so the best first line of a college essay. It doesn't have to be your actual college essay. It could be just something creative, something fun, something engaging, something that makes us want to read more. Winners in the past, I think one of my favorite winners was, I'll never forget when I first learned that my uncle was really my aunt. So that essay just makes me want to read on. So take a moment, be creative with it, and we're going to pick one winner, and that winner, if they want, gets to submit one essay to Randy that Randy will provide feedback on. And it has to be a student. I know there are a lot of school counselors and a lot of independent consultants out there. It has to be a student or a parent out there. That's really the only people that we share this with. So, and by the way, just so you know, we're getting a lot of people who are just saying, absolutely love this presentation. Thanks for this. Randy was really funny. He was really valuable. So again, thank you so much, Randy. It means great.
Oh, well, no, thank you. You and everybody, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, and while you guys are submitting your contest idea here, I'm going to launch a question / quiz based on Randy's presentation here.
And by the way, if I might just say too, not as plugging my service, but for anybody in the New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut area, I do this presentation for free for PTA meetings, libraries, prison release parties. So if anybody's interested.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy. Okay, so what do you think is the most common essay blunder out there? And I'm saying common, and common meaning also meaningful, like a bad mistake. And Randy covered this tonight, and I think is a good note to end on right before we go through the contest submissions. Okay, wow, got a healthy breakdown across the board here. Only a few people say the last one, being too risky. I was thinking that famous urban legend about, I think it was Penn, that said, in 500 words, tell us about a risk you took. And the person responded, this. Okay, about 20% say going over the stated limits. It's a mistake, but for the most part, colleges are flexible with that. So long as you're really giving them a great essay to read, they'll be thankful that they learned a little bit more about you, but obviously be respectful somewhat of the limit. The top one says mixing up the name of the college. 41% of people said that. That's the most. That's a big, big blunder. But believe it or not, it is not the most common blunder. Don't do that, that's for sure. But the most common blunder, which 39% agreed with, is writing about the college itself when asked why us. Like, why are you applying to the school? And Randy covered that superbly when he basically talked about regurgitating the college's brochure. It's what most students instinctively do, and it is the greatest way to ensure that the college learns absolutely nothing about you. In my opinion, the college supplemental essays, where they ask, why are you applying here largely, and other creative questions are just as, if not more so important than the comment at personal statement because it's specific to that school. So take those very seriously. All right, so now I'm going to go through some of the contest submissions, and they're looking pretty interesting already. Okay. I chose to marry when I was 12 years old. And Randy, by the way, make a note of these because you get to pick the winner, okay?
I do? Oh, God.
You do.
Right. Oh, the pressure.
I chose to marry when I was 12 years old. Next one. A diabolical smirk molded on my lips. Mr. Hyde was the dominant presence. Next. In December of 2013, I signed the contract of my life. And by the way, I'm skipping a few of them that even though they might be good, they're not necessarily things that I think might be winners. So if I don't read yours aloud, don't take that too personally. Ball so hard, colleges want to find me. Will this presentation be able to be viewed? Okay, no, that's just someone asking a question. We all have secrets. Even as kids, they are there. A secret stash of cookies, a hiding place, a stain under the couch pillow. I'm not the person who regularly volunteers to go into 7-Eleven and ask the clerk where the water bottles are. Sorry, that's like a tongue twister to me. And ask the clerk where the water bottles are. That's a good one. I like that. In the words of Doc Brown, where I'm going, I don't need roads. Okay, I love that because I am a total Back to the Future freak. The moment I walked out of the store with that chapstick, I knew my life was over. After being in Canada for only a day, I found myself lost in a Chinese neighborhood in which no one knew how to speak English. I felt a hand reach up my back, and when I turned around, it was my teacher. All right. So, Randy, any of those? There are a bunch more coming in. There are about 50 more submissions, but I'm trying to sift through them quickly. So I know we're trying to wrap up. Any of those?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's hard to pick. My three absolute favorite are the Married at 12, the Secrets, and the water bottles. But I think I would have to go with Secrets.
Secrets? Okay, so that is... Okay, Ananda, you can email us directly at College Essay Organizer, and we'll get you in touch with Randy so that you can share whatever essay you want, including whether or not it's this essay about your secrets. Hopefully you're not too secretive about this essay and get to share it. Okay, so again, thank you all so much for a fantastic evening. Let me close out this poll. We look forward to seeing many of you more in our other webcasts. You can log into your College Essay Organizer account and see the next few webcasts that we have coming up for this month. The next one is your stress-free admissions journey. That is not an oxymoron. And then after that, letting colleges know you dig them. So again, we're going to be covering financial aid, scholarships, putting together your college list. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, have a fantastic night and good luck out there. Thanks again, Randy.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.